is the North End. This is the North End.
Hello and welcome to the North End podcast / YouTube channel. It's been a while, folks. I have not been here in ages. JP has. Azaz has been here whenever he could be. Connie's been here whenever he could be. The world has gone back to normal to some extent, and many of us our lives have gone back to sort of not having any time for this or as much time as we'd like. But we're going to try to have a really good chat today about. We got a lot to talk about. We got World Cup. We got top four discussion. We got the previews for what's coming up this weekend. We've got a, Azaz and I are both playing each other on the Sunday. A big game to see kind of where each team is at to some extent. So it should be a ton of fun. JP, good to see you, brother. Thanks for holding down the fort for the most part on this channel.
God, I tried, but the last 2 weeks have been rough in Vegas, and then I couldn't bring my soul to do it after Villa lost 4-0 to Newcastle. I was
4-0.
crushed.
Yeah, it was a tough one.
It was fucking crushed.
We've got a special guest, Mr. Paul.
Been fun, guys. Have a good one.
Bye, JP.
What's up, Paul? Good to see you, buddy.
Bye, JP.
Oh, that's
no. Bring back JP.
I was just kind of going saying hello to people. JP, obviously a pleasure to have you here. Support the channel as much as you possibly can. Paul, you've made it. Good to see you. How's things? How's life?
Whatever.
All right, awesome. Moving on.
No, that's awesome.
I want to talk about Azaz's jacket, man. I want to talk. How old is that?
What's he got on there?
That's vintage. That's Carlsberg, man. That is.
No, that's a bowling jacket.
No, is that late 90s? If I could guess.
Mid 90s, by the way.
Mid 96, 97, maybe.
95.
That's nice.
So Azaz, how are you, mate? You good? How's life?
Yeah, not bad. Football's up and down, which, after the last few years, it's a bit of a come down. But at the same time, if you're not in it for the bad times, you don't deserve to celebrate in the good times. So,
yeah, they're not as fun when you're
That's nice. That's nice.
It's not, but there are little shoots of things that keep us alive and hopeful as well. Like, first team to beat Napoli this season, for example. Like, just as we resign ourselves to having a terrible season and it's just going to be crap, they tease us with something else. So in it for a long time, not a good time. So let's just see how it pans out.
Sounds right. Mr. Connie, how are you, sir? It's a pleasure to see you. You smiled. Your team's playing pretty well these days, and better than I think most people thought, but also still a bit of a ways to go. But more of an enjoyable to watch, certainly from a United perspective.
Yeah, it's going to take time. I think Azaz has brought this up on the show many times. It's looks like it's the start of something, nowhere near the finished article, but definite progress, and that's all you can ask for as you start to kind of try to rebuild these things. So excited for the show, boys.
Yeah,
really
excited to talk some football. Paul, you've shown up here. We sort of had a discussion about how the show is going to go, but you also did all the slates. Do you want to take over here? Do you want me to roll with what we had spoken about?
I don't. Were you going to use my slates?
Yeah.
This is great content.
Hey,
every time we say slates on the show, I'm like, what are we doing?
It's fine. It's not a big deal, guys. We were going to talk about the top four first, or were we going to talk about Liverpool first? What was it? Trouble. There it is.
We
for you.
We had said trouble, yeah. But hang on. Yeah. Paul has to go first because
I'm going to go first. I started this because I'm a Man United fan. I fucking think that jacket you're wearing is dog shit, but like vintage and cool dog shit. But like what's crazy is, and it's almost like a reaction because Man United went through a very similar like thing where the amount of overreactions that I'm hearing on some shows and some call-ins and like just stupid people being stupid, that Klopp has lost it. He's done. It's over. Like these definitive period ending sentences. Like there's no other explanation than he's just now suddenly not a good manager.
Seven season syndrome, Paul.
Oh yeah, but like not like it's because of injuries or it's just an off season or they're adjusting from the loss of a significant player. Like I'm hearing things about like fullbacks like are like you can't play that way even though he won the league playing that way
and
like,
the Champions League.
and the Champions League. And I'm like, I just don't understand this recency
Turn
bias
on
that
him.
people are just looking at now, and they are forgetting the years of success and just who he is as a manager.
Can I ask you a question?
Wild.
Can I ask you a question on that note? Where do you think they actually are based on that? Like, because it is a dramatic fall in form.
Yeah.
Not in
No,
quality.
they're
right?
yeah.
So
They're
where
done.
are they?
They're dead.
Where
they're
are
done. They're
Liverpool?
dead. They're done and they're dead. They're done and they're dead. They're gone.
Where do you have them finishing this season
like,
then?
As Stan from Crystal Palace would say, they don't exist anymore. They're just they're ghosts. They're ghosts. I don't know. They've had a very bad start to the season. They've dropped points. I think it's a momentum thing. I can see them getting back into some form if they are one of the few teams that avoid like injuries through the World Cup. But I think they got some players to come in that need bedding in over the course of a couple of seasons that are not going to replace Sadio Mane. So for a few different reasons, I feel like 5th or 6th is maybe where I see them going. And I think that's mostly because the damage has already been done in terms of like dropping those games that you kind of have to win or avoid dropping. Like they've already done it. So, and because there's just a lot of like, it's a fucking compressed horse race at the top 4 now. Like Newcastle, we'll talk about them, but like, I mean, they're in it. So I think 5th or 6th is probably where I can see them heading this season. But then I have no problem saying I can see them like competing with Man City next season. Like I just don't. They are done. Defined sentence. Like it's over. Bullshit. I'm hearing. I'm like, what the fuck is? People are dumb. People are just dumb, is what I'm saying.
That's modern day football takes, though, right? It's just so reactive. It's like you can't go through a bad spell and
Connie,
come
this
back.
is coming from you. You're saying this about.
I like to tease you about Spurs. I do, but I was concerned about their form. But look, they've won 2 games on the bounce. I'd really like to hear from Azaz. Like, bad start to the season, but like, what do you? And more so, if you can, tell me what you think about the team and if things are not going well. Because when I watch them, the thing that I notice most, and it seems very like
it's defensive,
obvious. Yeah, their defense isn't like the same. Their midfield, but their tempo to me more than anything.
Yeah,
they just look. I don't know if it's tired, but it looks 1 or 2 steps slower than that high octane football we were all used to. What do you think, man?
Oh man, it's such a long answer. So I'll try and keep it as short as possible. The biggest thing that has obviously happened is over the last 3 or 4 years, a lack of investment in refreshing the team. And 51% of that, I would say, is clearly that we don't spend more than we bring back, and that whole net spend thing, I'm not saying it's a good thing or a bad thing, but like clearly that's the model FSG run. I do think Klopp is part of that, by the way. Like I don't think Klopp is able to say goodbye to players. Like he's never done it before. He's never done the Fergie, even Guardiola
recycle play. He doesn't get rid of guys that need to go.
He doesn't.
Too loyal? Are you saying too loyal, Azaz?
Too loyal, too attached. Like I think Klopp's mantra, the thing that's won us every single trophy, is the same thing that ends up being our Achilles heel, which is kind of beautiful in a way. It's like the thing that builds you up is the thing that knocks you down. Realistically, every 2-3 years, you look at Man City, you need to churn out a few players and bring a few other players in. Like we have somebody like, if we had somebody like Raheem Sterling, he wouldn't have been sold to Chelsea. He would have been ours until he's 32, 33 and he walks on a contract. Whereas Manchester City are like, what? We'll give him, was he 60 million? I don't remember. Like, but whatever, 50. It was like 50. And he was like, cool, Gabriel Jesus gone, Zinchenko gone. Klopp doesn't roll like that. So I think that's one thing. The second thing is, and in every 5 things we've learned, I always say the injuries are not an excuse, but I don't know how many teams could actually ride out Diaz, Jota, Thiago, all these players being out all the time as well. But that's not an excuse. Like, it's not okay that our players are out. So
it's part of the reason, though.
Oh yeah,
it's part of the reason. It's part of the reason. But the biggest thing I have to say is, at the start of the season, we were arrogant. We thought we can roll into these like teams like Fulham and Everton and just show up and win. And when you don't have the tempo, when you don't have the legs anymore, when they outwork you or they outbully you or any of those things, you're not going to win those football matches. Playing against Man City and playing against Napoli, you can see that we've still got quality, but like, why are players able to rise to those occasions, but then in the other games they can't? And then the last thing I want to say is the mistakes are pathetic. Like the goals that we've given away. Like, did you see that first goal against Leeds the other day when Joe Gomez just rolls it across?
Yeah.
It was almost like playing FIFA and played a through ball.
Can you
like,
believe
as
that
an
Luke
attacking
keeps telling
team.
me he's a good player? Luke keeps telling me that Villa should go for him. And I'm like,
Yeah.
no, he doesn't
Yeah.
play. He's always
Yeah.
injured. And I saw that. I was like, you rail Tyrone Mings, but you want this guy? That was terrible.
Yeah.
I don't know that he's a bad
And
player though. When he's on, he's quite good actually.
Yeah, I've seen
Sure,
him play
but
very well,
Is
but
he
he's
a
inconsistent, injured a lot.
Liverpool
Doesn't
third
play
string
enough, man.
center back? Is he
No,
a
they look,
Liverpool
Yeah, he's our
Van
fourth
Dijk and
choice.
Matip. Yeah.
He's our fourth choice of centre back. So there's a couple of the reasons. But above anything else, like just to echo what Paul said, it's hot take central these days, whether it's social media or talk sport or whatever it is.
Talk crap.
It's ridiculous to suggest that Jurgen Klopp wouldn't be given a chance to like rebuild his team. I think part of him extending his deal, so he was going to be wrapping up in 2024 and then he extended to 2026. Obviously, part of that whole thing is at least one more rebuild that he
had
will
a
be in
chat
charge
about
of.
it. Yeah.
But then he has to as well be okay with letting people go. You know,
he has to let people go.
Yeah.
He
So
wouldn't have
that's
sold
it.
Origi if he didn't have to. If Origi wanted to
No.
stay, I bet you Origi would still be there.
Nobody has gone like that. Nobody has gone.
Yeah.
Like,
I think it's part of the way he
Lallana left.
manages his guys. He has
It's
the
the culture.
it's
Yeah.
who they are as a team together. They're in it together.
Yeah.
And then to
Yeah.
let go of a
When
player
those
that-
players leave, he literally goes on and on about how great of a
Yeah.
teammate they were, how
Yeah.
professional. He really likes the tight-knit group that they have and that they've built. And when players leave, he says, they've done so much for us. The team that the player is going to is lucky to have them. I guess my only other question for you is we've seen like the teams like Chelsea rebuilding. They spent a lot of money. Manchester United spent a lot of money. Let's say you guys hypothetically finish, like there's a hypothetical, finish 6th or 7th. Do you think like Klopp will be able to go to FSG and be like, I need 200 million in the transfer budget to buy like 2 or 3 legit players to keep us in the top 4? Maybe it will he. I guess my question is, do you think he'll be financially backed if he needs to be? Because the problem I think with Liverpool is no one has spent better than them in almost the last decade, particularly in the Premier League. It was disturbing how many they nailed on: Salah, Mane, the keeper, Van Dijk. It was fucked up how good it was. So will he be financially supported, do you think, in this next summer if things don't go to plan this season?
So our chief exec has said a couple of times, our plans don't change if whether we come in the top 4 or not. So that implies that's a defense statement to say, no matter what happens, we're spending the same amount of money next summer. So that implies
So it's good
that
and
they will
bad,
back him.
potentially.
But he has to want to refresh the squad as well, right? Like the thing is, 3-4 years ago, you enter a game. Like we got to the 2018 Champions League final with a midfield of Henderson, Milner, and Wijnaldum, and it's now 2022, and 2 of them often start. Right.
Yeah.
The year later, we got to the Champions League final, and our starting midfield would include Fabinho.
Fabinho.
He's completely lost his legs in these
has.
last few months. So from my perspective, 100% have faith in Klopp. I have faith in FSG. Like I'm not FSG out. Like I think people who understand the business model, so for the way I look at it with Liverpool fans is you can't have everything. What some of the teams that spend a lot of money have, they don't necessarily have on the culture side or the spirit or whatever you want to say that a Liverpool has, or even a Man United has. You know, like there are certain clubs that have certain things that you can't have, and it's not in our current management to be able to like splash way more cash than we need to. You know, you just have to look at how many teams have outspent Liverpool, net or gross, over the last few years. And even when we won the league or won the Champions League, we were like barely spending, you know, even in maintenance mode. Well, it's come to bite us big time in the ass this season, because obviously all the teams that were spending at that time in growth mode and we weren't spending in maintenance mode have, you know, caught us up or taken us over. I don't think we're out of the top 4 race, though. I hope you all remember earlier on in the year when I was thinking we would be potential title challengers, because why would I not think that? I was talking about there being, you know, the title race being maybe like a mid-80s, low to mid-80s would win the title. I also think that it's going to be a lower number than average for the Champions League as well. Clearly, we have an 8-point disadvantage and an 8-point head start everybody else has. But like, we turned around a 14-point lead with Man City last year, and that's Man City, you know. So like, can we turn around an 8-point lead against a Tottenham or a Chelsea or a Man U? Yeah, I do believe we can, because I think every team is dropping points, and unexpectedly as well. You know, you have Arsenal taking off and like seem to be winning every game, and then they draw against Southampton. Like, where did that come from? You know, some of the matches that people have dropped points. Objectively,
he's in it.
Yeah,
he's in it.
Let's crack on with the conversation. It leads into the top 4, and Paul's doing exactly what I was going to do. So bringing up the top 4, talking about Newcastle, a team that is now in this conversation, realistically, based on the form that they've brought to the table. And of course, when it comes to spending, they haven't really spent that much yet, but they spent wisely with good players to fit the system and have brought in a good manager to deal with that. We have now, like you just said, as a very close race for the top 4. I think most of us still think that despite Arsenal's form, that City will eventually take over that situation, and Arsenal will probably be in the top end of that top 4 race based on their form so far. But you know, Newcastle into this conversation, United, as Paul and Connie know, are playing better football right now. Like you said, as Liverpool potentially coming back into this at some point with getting fit again and just playing better. It's a ridiculous race for that 2nd to 7th. Arguably, there's a bunch of teams in there that are going to have a conversation.
It's crazy.
It's nuts. Paul, you're eager to talk about this probably. Your team obviously in the conversation now, probably more so than you'd expected. But Newcastle United standing out a little bit, because I don't think anybody saw this coming this soon.
If we just keep it to Newcastle, currently in 4th, have played a game more than those closest to them, so it's a flattering position. But I mean, realistically, if you look at the course of the season, 13 games played, 1 loss.
Yeah,
like they are doing the things you need to do to get into that top 4. They beat Tottenham, who is a top 4 adversary, or is in that dog hunt to get into that top 4. They didn't lose to Manchester City, which very few teams in that top 4 race are going to be able to say. They took a point off of an almost guaranteed no points game, which, as we all know,
third highest goal differential. They're killing it.
Towards the end of the season, that's really going to matter.
Sure. Yep.
They do have a lot of draws. I think there's a certain degree of like lack of killer instinct or match winners. It won't seem like that until like recently. I mean, last 3 or 4 games, we may not be thinking that, but if you look over the course of the entire season, they've had
6 draws is a lot, right?
A lot of draws. And I think a lot of that was still they brought in a new striker. He needed to get bedded in. Obviously, old man was like gonna show up with the occasional hat trick before his knees blow out. But if I look at them, I mean, it's part and parcel. Can they keep this up? And if they keep up this pace, Newcastle, and they make it hard to beat, like Man United had a hell of a time trying to score against Newcastle at a game that I think Man United probably outplayed them, but still shared points for both of them. Who do they have to beat for that 4th position? Chelsea are up and down this season. Man United are very consistent right now, but nobody would be surprised if they suddenly started getting inconsistent, because nobody really knows what they are right now.
Yeah, I would be surprised. I think you've seen them get better slowly.
They seem together. Like they seem
there's
all their players
wasn't there before.
You talk about Newcastle or United?
United.
Yes.
Well, the United and Newcastle are very similar in a sense where, and Paul just mentioned it, We don't have that thing that Spurs has and that Liverpool can have whenever we don't have that. Like Ronaldo, I love him. Will always love him. We are having a great deal of difficulty scoring goals, which is what I kind of see with Newcastle, to Paul's point. You need that. City don't have that issue. Tottenham, when Kane and Son are on, no issues there. Liverpool, same thing. If Salah's playing well, like he's just going to score or they can create offense. Newcastle and United and even Chelsea don't have that goal-scoring threat. When I watch all three of those teams play, I see the similar, like solid defense, good midfield. You got to be able to score consistently and to win games and get into that top four, which I think is going to be hard.
The devil's advocate to that is, unlike any years past, this is a team that can go buy some goals in January and has players like St. Maximum who haven't really been fit this season.
Yeah,
or their new striker.
After the World Cup, like they have two really good strikers right now. One of them is injured, but will be healthy come the return from the World Cup. And even if he's not, they could probably buy somebody who could buy them 10 goals for the rest of the season.
Almiron playing the best football he's played.
Ever since Jack Grealish made those comments at the title celebration, that was the best. He made fun of Mahrez calling him Almiron. Since then, Grealish has 1 goal and Almiron has 6. What a stat.
And they've got a really good defense. So I do think that, and again, this is probably comes down to what they do in January, if they do anything, but they legitimately can buy their way into finishing top 4. And that's the start of this new project. It's like the new era for Newcastle is all of a sudden they'll have Champions League to offer anybody. They'll have big paychecks and salaries to offer anybody. Like
I think also right after this World Cup, where any one of these teams who are currently in that top 4 conversation could, which we'll get into when it comes to what, who have how many players in the World Cup. It's going to be really interesting to see which one of them comes out healthy. If they come out healthy and City don't and Arsenal don't and Spurs don't, and they're in a scenario where they have a healthy squad with a good manager. I mean, it's a weird one. It's a weird season.
Yeah, so I want to jump in for a quick second on Newcastle. I mean, the crazy thing is 5 or 6 of their starters are still guys they had before their takeover and before their new coach. So he's coaching them up quite a bit. Really he's getting guys that are balling, because when he came in, they had 1 win out of like 15 games. Yeah. And now those same players are doing the business. Just imagine if they do get top 4. Imagine if they get to top 4 and they have carte blanche for a check, they could go get anyone.
It doesn't matter if they finish top 4, JP. They have a car. Them and Man City are the 2 teams in this league that have carte blanche to go and get. So even if they finish 6th or 7th, the project is looking good. Top 4, guys, honestly, top 4 for Newcastle, it would just be an unexpected cherry on top, because they're literally doing this like Man City did, season at a time, huge wages, come to us, be like, hey, do you want to go play for, and it's not a knock on like Spurs or like Liverpool, we're going to pay you $150 a week at Newcastle, like, we'll give you 200. That matters to these players. That matters.
Newcastle's going up quicker than Man City. Like literally, they were in dead last this time last year.
Yeah, it's pretty epic.
like it is like this. Like they are just jumping.
Okay, hold on a second. Does anyone in on the show right now think Newcastle are going to finish top 4? I don't. I don't.
I don't.
It's not that far off.
No.
What do you think, Azaz?
Does anybody think Arsenal are going to win the league? Kind of a similar question, right?
Yeah.
Better
so the one thing I would say is you need to also look at who they've just played as well. So before their last little run, where they picked up a lot of points, and they definitely look better than Liverpool. So not
early days
too hard, but like at the end of the day, the season sends you a couple of runs in a season. And yeah, like you get to like steamroll a couple of teams. So they had, unfortunately, they had Villa, they had Brentford, they had Everton, so, teams that they've been beating before that, they were like draw central, so like the question is, when are they going to be in this kind of a position in like March or April, and then I would say that they're a contender for top 4. At the moment, they've drawn a lot of games. I think they've drawn 6, they've won 6, and they've lost
Not as
1.
many as they've
so
won.
They're hard to beat. So they're hard to beat. That's clear. But then beyond that, they're beating the lower down teams, and then anywhere else, and it's a draw. So we'll have to see that they're hard to beat, and they're also, I think they've conceded like 10 goals or something. So they're good in defense. They're not scoring all that many goals as well. And I do think that sometimes when you get into these races for the top, when you get into these races for top 4, I think attack wins. To be honest, and that's why I think Tottenham. That's why
I think defense
Tottenham
wins championships.
You got to score to get the 3 points. You can play solidly. You need to get those goals, JP.
Well, that's what happened with Tottenham last year. Like Tottenham and Arsenal are running neck and neck, and the reason Tottenham pipped them to the top 4 is because of the attack. It's not because of anything else.
Exactly.
It's because of the attack.
But then the other thing to this is we're not talking about winning a title. We're talking about just being in top 4, and consistency can get you in top 4. And
they are.
Chelsea have not been consistent. Tottenham have been kind of a consistency.
Their form isn't great. They're getting results, but their form isn't great.
They started the season well.
Yeah, Man United have been consistent. I don't know if that's going to be maintained, but they have. You take away the first 2 games, they've absolutely been consistent for the rest of those games. Like they're a model of consistency now. Again, I don't know if that is sustainable. I wouldn't be surprised if the wheels fall off. I'm not sure. They're an unknown entity for me. But Newcastle have been super consistent.
Yeah,
and like I said, I mean, a lot of my evaluation, could they finish top 4 or not, really comes down to, can they get somebody in January that nobody else will really put a punt on, that maybe they can flex their muscles and get somebody through the doors that gets them some goals.
Like a Gamarish forward or something.
Jonathan David.
And it's things, it's things like this. Madison at Leicester makes no sense anymore, right? But part of the new build at Newcastle makes total sense. And they won't be put off, I don't think, spending more in January to bring him in. And I can see him like that where he's at right now. It's a gong show, right? So if you bring in a Madison, not a striker, but like a Madison type player to Newcastle, I think top 4 is totally reasonable.
That's a big if though, and that's the one team I think that you're going to see. You're going to see splash cash in January. Newcastle are going to be ready to spend in every upcoming window.
Yeah. So I don't know. Sure. Well, I think we'll find out, but I think they're really like they're. It's not like a Leicester that find themselves top of the table like at Christmas, where you just kind of know they're not going to be there by the end of the year. These guys, they've got these unknown things behind them, and they're well coached, and they're like players are playing out of their skin, and they've got money. So I think they might. They're Vegas odds. There's a bet to be made there to finish top 4, and I just don't think it's that much of a long shot.
And a lot of it is, can Liverpool get it together? Can Chelsea get it together? Because those are perennial powerhouses, right? Like if like a United, Chelsea, and Liverpool kind of shit the bed, the door's open for them, right? And they are playing great football.
I think the most important thing is what Paul just brought up here. Paul, you're in my head tonight. Is what happens with this World Cup. We're going to talk about the players that the amount of players that each team has going to it. It's in the middle of a season. Injuries going into the World Cup. Some of them might be fit when the season starts again because they didn't play in the World Cup. Like a Heung-min Son, for instance, is an example. We know he's out now for the World Cup, and he'll be resting that entire time and will be fresh when the season starts. Newcastle have way fewer teams than most of the other teams in the race for it. Should we just bring up that slate where we see we see all of them, right? We could do one at a time. I know Paul wanted to do one at a time, but let's just look at it. We can do one at a time as we're looking at it because it gives us a good sense of it. We don't need to go through each one. Obviously, the bigger teams we're going to see like the Spurs, the City, the Chelsea, the Man U, even Newcastle. 12 players in that World Cup. I mean, I don't know what teams they're playing for, but
they're getting out pretty early.
Yeah, Connie, looking at this, I mean, Arsenal, the team in the best position currently, have the least amount of players in the World Cup. When you're looking at this, like, how do you think this affects the World Cup specifically? Is going to affect this top 4 race and top 6, top 7 race? With I mean, it's nuts looking at this section.
Bri, you support England, right? So Paul and I support Scotland, and I mean we'll be rooting against England. But really, I think when you're a fan, like a diehard, like everyone's a diehard on this channel right now about their team, you just want one thing from this World Cup more than anything. Like if you're a me or a Paul, You just want your players to come back healthy. Yeah, like I don't know if Varane is playing, but like I need that guy healthy and like everybody else. Because like, imagine like
Chelsea.
Belgium are playing and like KDB like tears as well. Maybe that's a bad example. They could still probably replace him. But what if like Bri for you guys top four, like Harry Kane?
If Kane gets injured in the World Cup,
yeah,
we're fucked.
like come on, man. And then I don't know. So it's really.
I'm going to frame this a little differently because I think there's another element to this that you don't quite get when you just talk sheer numbers. Like there is a difference between going to the World Cup and getting knocked out at the group stage and going deep into the World Cup.
Yeah, that's an
Well,
extra
that's what I
3
meant
weeks.
all about which players they have in the team, not necessarily.
Manchester City have Belgium represented. I can see Belgium going far. That's a KDB. They've got Spanish players. I can see Spain going far. And they've got Portuguese players, which
they can make it out of the group.
Yeah.
English players,
English
even
players
if
as well.
Who
knows?
They've still
And then
Foden.
John Stones.
And then English players. But my general sense is Erling Haaland's not going. And they have such a rich, deep squad. And the likelihood of all those countries we just mentioned going deep, I think they've got a lot of players going to the World Cup, but they'll probably come out of this okay. KDB is probably the only guy I'd be worried about because I think he's been so instrumental to what they've been doing so far this season that if he finds himself gassed out and exhausted or injured because of the World Cup, he would be a guy I'd be worried about. And then if I went to Arsenal, like it's a totally different thing. Like the numbers just aren't there, and there aren't that many star players for their country. There's a couple of English guys.
Maybe
there's like a Swiss guy.
It's minimal.
Like
minimal.
But he's not going
Does
far.
Jesus start? Does Gabby Jesus start for Brazil or no?
No, Richarlison does.
Does he
there's Brazilians, right?
Yeah.
And Gabby probably does start because, like, I mean, the injuries situation with Richarlison.
Yeah, maybe in this case he might. Yeah,
but that's only 2 or 3 of their 6 that's going to start and go possibly far. Whereas it might be all 12 of Man City's. Like,
well, yeah, I mean it could be, but again, they have more depth. But I think Arsenal are a weird team where, like, Martinelli comes back injured, doesn't play that much, or he's like gassed out from playing for Brazil, as an example. He's a really important player for them. I don't think they've got the space to cover for that. So
they don't.
They don't have as much risk, but I do think any injury to that team, there's some issues. But they've got a lot of guys who are not going. They've got like a lot of like key component players who are not going to be going to the World Cup and don't have any injury issues. Spurs are pretty sporadic. I think without a doubt, the one factor I give over every other team that we're going to be talking about is the Harry Kane performance after World Cups, because we've seen him have this before where he has a drop and a slow start to a season after a tournament. I don't know what that means when he comes back directly into the league from a tournament.
Yeah.
I think England probably go deep-ish this tournament.
Possibly. I think I'm more worried about our Argentinian players in Bentancur and Romero than I am about Kane. Kane's been very, very specific about how he plays, and he's been injury free for about a season and a half because of it. And I think it shows in just his lack of being off the pitch. Bentancur has made our team tick this season. Like if he didn't exist, we wouldn't function. And Romero's our best defender. If either of those players, and they also have a history, Argentinian players in particular, not these two. Well, Romero does, but getting injured on international duty is a thing. So I'm like, if those two got injured for a period of time post World Cup, I think Spurs would be in a lot of trouble.
Does Eric Dyer have a shout or a shot at chancing at starting it all for England, or no?
Oh, I think he will. I think he's the best player.
And he's been good for you guys as well this season. I'd be keeping an eye on him.
He's been great. I think that's a difficult one as well. I mean, he's also been maintaining fitness pretty well, been avoiding injury. But again, you don't know what happens in a World Cup. A tournament's a different.
He's converted very well. Like, he used to be a midfielder that got forward. He's converted very smoothly into a center back.
I wouldn't say that, but I mean, I'm a Spurs fan, so it's taken a while. It's taken a while.
it's Eric Dyer, guys.
Yeah. Agreed.
I like him.
Newcastle have 12 guys that are going to be very happy to be showing up to the tournament and then leaving
Yeah.
pretty much. Like
You
they're
got
going
two Brazilians.
like this number 12 feels like a big number, but it's really peripheral
Yeah.
World Cup selection, early
Sure.
teams out, a lot of cheerleaders that might be hung over if they go deep, if anything.
Trippier, maybe.
Trippier is the one guy I want to dwell on because I think he has to be going to England right now because he's but
just for that
now,
piece.
now we're talking about a guy who is older going to a tournament in the heat of Qatar. And he has been so instrumental to any success, whatever this is right now at Newcastle. He is so important to that right now that he's the linchpin, I think, for them. If something happens to him at this tournament and he comes back gassed out or he comes back injured,
A lot of those draws, Paul. A lot of those draws early in the season they had was without him in the side. So statistically speaking, when he wasn't there,
and he starts for England under this setup as well. So he's going to play a lot as well.
Set piece, he can take a set piece as well.
Yeah.
The guy's delivery is
He's
incredible.
pretty quick too.
Then there's Manchester United, who, I think they're a little bit slight across the board. They've got 11 players that might be going to the World Cup. It could be 12. Like, is Rashford going to be going? Who knows? Like, there's some peripheral players like that. There's one or two players that are so instrumental to what they're doing right now that if Martinez comes back injured or a little bit tired, Rafael Varane, almost thankfully won't be going because he's already injured before the World Cup. That might be
wrap him in cotton wool.
Harry Maguire, who gives a shit. Like we're not that.
He's gonna play every game
as a setup right now.
Luke Shaw might be starting as well.
Wrong. I think Maguire will play plenty for England because
I don't want to have that conversation.
Loves,
I refuse to have a conversation about that. So I'm going to move on. This is all to say, Manchester United have 11 players, but there's only one or two that you have to really pinpoint as being it would be an issue if something happened to them. And then there's Chelsea, and Chelsea are probably
make the team.
Yeah.
Chelsea are probably the most. I don't give a shit, guys. They are probably one of the most resilient of the bigger clubs, quote unquote. There are not a lot of star players at Chelsea that might go deep or might have anything to do with like Mason Mount, maybe. But there's Conte's already injured and won't be going.
Yeah, he won't even be
in a lot of weird ways,
years
break
ago.
for the World Cup might benefit Chelsea more than other clubs. Because the guys like Reece James who are already injured will have a chance to recoup and regroup. So there's almost like this weird flip of, it might be a bad thing for Tottenham, for example, but Chelsea might actually benefit from the World Cup because they're going to get a chance to circle the wagons and get healthy during the break.
Paul, just to add to that quickly, too, you could also consider the amount of time that the managers are going to have with players they typically don't have a lot of time with because So the focus on getting other players, like I'd take Spurs obviously as an example. There's a lot of younger players at Spurs that Conte's not giving a chance to. This is an opportunity for him. Like, I don't have anybody else to work with, so I'm going to see what can Jed Spence, for instance, do. That I haven't really seen that much because I've been relying on other players, and now I have an opportunity to work with them for 3 weeks.
I can tell you at Man United, Man United have already booked two.
We have a friendly, two friendlies,
2 closed door friendlies already during the course of the World Cup.
That's smart.
It's impressive.
I think all the teams are going to do it.
Villa's doing that too.
I didn't even know that, but it makes sense completely for sure.
It's going to save Villa because we just got Unai Emery.
There's going to be a lot of reliance on these younger players to be fit and ready if players come back injured from the World Cup.
JP, I don't want to dwell on this, but Aston Villa are dead. They're done.
Azaz, I know they're not on the list, but do you know how many Liverpool have going just for the sake of it?
No, not just not like this. I don't know the definitive number, but I know that there's a lot of people that are not going. Like Diaz, Salah, they'll be resting.
Good.
I don't think Thiago makes the squad anymore. I'd be happy if Fabinho and Henderson will go, but I'd be happy if he didn't go. I'd be okay with with Fabinho not going. I'd be okay with Trent not going. Although how that's possible without Reece James around is I'm not
he's going
around.
Van Dijk is probably your big concern, right?
Van Dijk, for sure, and then
Alisson maybe.
Alisson starts for Brazil as well. He's the number one.
Yeah, he's
Firmino.
I could see Van Dijk actually doing better because of this World Cup because he needs to get away from Liverpool for a few days and just have some good games for the Netherlands.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think so.
I
And,
mean,
and
if
you
it's
never want to
given
see
easy,
anyone
though,
get
like-
injured. You never want to see anyone get injured. But if Fred gets a knock and is out for a month or two, what are you going to do, right?
Suck it up.
Play
I
for
think
Brazil.
he's playing way better.
You can have him. Make an offer. Make us an offer.
Well, do you guys
sure.
want to get into the previews then for?
Yeah,
this
let's do
upcoming
it.
week?
Let's do it. Look at us on time.
Is it Connie? This is your wheelhouse here, buddy. You want to roll with it?
No, this is Paul's, man. Paul does a way better job than I do.
I'm tired of carrying your fucking lazy show up when you want.
Leeds
at
Bournemouth,
home.
guys. Leeds Bournemouth.
But you're so good at it.
What a
I was
great
like-
game we got started here.
So just for the group, Connie was over at my house today. He was talking about how bored he is and just like doing nothing and stuff. And I was just like, and yet you haven't made a single video
I know.
about Man United.
Sad
I'll
state
make
of
one
affairs.
this weekend. I'll do a
wins,
vlog.
after wins.
He doesn't even have the
Wait
team.
till the international break, and he'll
He's
talk
not
about
even
Scotland.
sheepish about it. He's just like, yeah, that's a good point. What do you want?
Can I just say, going into this, I like Jesse March. That's all I'm going to say, and I hope he does well at Leeds, and I think he will. I just like what he's about. He's all business. He believes in tactics, and I think the players like him. And I think they're going to get a result against Bournemouth.
Let the Americans.
I don't
speak.
like him. I don't like him. I think he's a
I also don't care if you
cop-out.
like him. I like him. I think he's all about the business.
I don't think he is about the business. He has what, one win in like 5?
They
He's
play
not
good
about the
football,
business.
man. I like the way
Yeah,
they
I've-
give him money. Give him money.
My
like him.
cousin's kid is a Leeds fan, and he really likes him. You know, he
Yeah.
does.
He reminds me of like Tim Sherwood. He's all energy and
dude,
no like real energy.
He's
Hi.
substance.
Hi,
No,
that
he's
person in the
he
background.
kind of reminds me a little bit of Klopp, where he's like, if we do this and this, it'll work. You just need to work your ass off. Like I
Who's
like
in the
him.
background
really
there?
good. They were
Yo,
really
Paul.
good against us, to be honest.
Yeah,
with you.
man,
Like,
they have
I
potential.
was very impressed with how they played against us. Fine, we didn't play well, but like it still takes a lot of grapefruits to come to Anfield and play like that.
Yeah,
And the second thing I'd say about Leeds as well is it's really close in the league at the moment.
Yeah,
like
man.
Yeah, it is.
everyone's beating everyone. There's like, isn't there like 8-9 points separating 20th
Like
to like
8
7th
teams,
or
yeah.
something
Yeah.
like that? Yeah. So like
like
and we're
9th
in
to
that group, by the
15th
way.
is the bottom half of the table.
The
9th
form
to
on both of these
16th.
teams is pretty poor, though. Despite Leeds beating Liverpool, you know they'd lost 4 in a row previous to that. Bournemouth have lost 3 in a row. They've only won one
Yeah.
of the last 5. Both of these
Yeah.
teams. Bournemouth had a good run there, and their new manager they started really well under him, but circumstances. With the team.
Jesse Marsh needs this win. If Leeds
Okay.
can get a win,
It's comfortable. It's yeah. I mean, no, it's a
Okay.
comfortable
But
1-1.
it's Leeds Bournemouth. Move on.
We're spending a lot of time on Leeds Bournemouth.
Yeah, too much.
Uh,
That's what I'm saying.
Manchester
City-
City, Fulham.
Yeah, you
I
go ahead,
am
Paul.
What
so
time do we need
curious.
to spend on this one?
All you need to know is I'm very curious to see if Mitrovic is a real deal, because that guy has this crazy stat for expected goals that are not penalty, and he seems to do it against everybody. It doesn't matter who he plays. And Manchester City's defense this year is not great.
They
So
give up goals.
Man City are going to blow out Fulham, but I want to know how good Mitrovic is, and I think we're going to find out a little bit from this game. Nottingham Forest, Brentford, awesome. I think Nottingham Forest are going to get smashed. I hope so. I hope Ivan Toney comes out with a big fucking 4-goal performance. I, for some reason, find myself hating Nottingham Forest this reason. I can't even tell you why.
26 new players.
I hate them. Who do they think they are not to have a jersey sponsor? Stop trying to beat the
I think
system.
that looks
I like
class.
it actually. I like
No,
it.
it looks
That's
great.
kinda
But
cool.
like, who do they think they are that they can get away with that and we can't? All of us have to have some sort of corporate shell on our body. Wolves are going to host Brighton. Brighton, who have been looking so good.
So
honestly.
good.
They
That's
haven't. They've
fine.
won. They've won
Yeah,
one
I-
game
I'm-
in their last
I'm-
5.
yeah,
What are you guys
I don't
watching?
They
think
play
so.
good football. They're kind of like
No,
Leeds,
they look
man.
so good
They got
losing.
one win.
I mean,
because
doesn't
of
matter.
one
They
goal
play good
penalty.
football.
God,
Trossard. Trossard, will he be at a top
Trossard
4
on your
Hold on.
fantasy team
top
is a
4 or
great
top
pick,
6?
though.
Is it time for him to move this summer? He's a legit
yeah.
player.
He's good.
He's fantastic. I
We
love
just-
this Spurs for sure.
Brighton only won because they played Chelsea, where their ex-manager was at. That's why they won. They're not actually. They might be passing well and have good styles and whatever. They can't finish again.
They're
All of a
still in
sudden,
8th.
it's like it's
They're
gone.
still in 8th, and they started the season really well under the previous manager, obviously Potter. But they are not necessarily ticking with the new manager. They're starting to a bit, but they look good. But they're not.
But they're also playing Wolves. Wolves are dog shit.
Oh, they should be Wolves. I'm not saying they
That's
shouldn't
true.
be Wolves. I'm not saying
Wolves are actually Wolves need to get their shit together. What about Diego Costa?
Let's not paper over
hang
the
on,
cracks
hang on.
of.
I'm a
of
firm
Brighton
believer in
beating Brighton.
context, folks. 3-3 against Liverpool. Liverpool were expected to beat them. Of course, they had to be expected to beat them. They lost 1-0 to Tottenham in a game I think they were in pretty good, considering, again, they were playing a team they should have lost to. Brentford, Brighton, that was a bad performance. Totally fair. Not being able to score against Nottingham Forest is not a good color on them.
Yeah, that's pretty good. You just named 3 things that were shit.
Manchester City was always going to beat them, so that you can't really knock them for that. And then they beat up on Chelsea. I think when we start talking about Brighton and we start talking about them looking really good, it is in the context of them being a top 10 club when we say that.
Yeah,
We're not
exactly.
saying they are
I
anything
agree
other
with
than
that, Paul.
looking
I also
really
think
good.
it's in the context that they're fun to watch, despite whether they win or lose. And I think that
course.
comes in, clouds the judgment a little
Totally.
bit when it comes to
Right.
how good they are. They
But a
look
Wolves
good. It's fun to
Brighton
watch,
game,
but they don't win a
when
lot.
Connie and I say they've been looking really good and everybody blows up, it's like, how can you say that? They haven't won again. Well, yeah, no,
I
they
just don't
didn't
think
beat.
they look. I don't think they look good losing as much as they've lost. That's
Well,
Oh, they're
yeah,
gonna
man.
pump Wolves on the weekend. I'll tell you that.
Here we go. Here we
Won't
go,
argue
Brighton,
that.
all day, Seagulls, all day. Everton
Alex
against the Foxes in a game that is still one of these managers has to get fired. I hope so.
God.
I'm tired with both these
Everton's
managers.
actually doing a little bit better than they were at the beginning of the season. They were
That's
dog
true.
shit the first 4
Sure.
weeks, and they're kind of
Sure.
starting to pick it up a little bit.
Yeah, winning a draw recently. Leicester, same thing. Leicester, they won a couple. They lost their last game. Oof, both of these teams, though, are just super inconsistent. Like Paul said,
Let's-
it's like
Let's get to the one of the two fucking let's go games.
Mega
Chelsea
games.
hosting Arsenal. Arsenal first place. First place in the league. I hate saying that against Chelsea, who have got to bounce back if they're getting like trumped. Just
Chelsea
smashed
play
up.
good in these games, though. They'll at home against a rival. Chelsea will play well. Now, Arsenal are a good side at the moment.
Yeah.
Whether they win or not, I could see like a 2-2 draw here. I could see being really like aggressive, both teams going at each other.
No.
I could see it for sure.
I think Arsenal are just on it right now. I don't know if
They
Chelsea
are.
They
have
haven't been
it
that
in
on it
them.
though. They just drew to
But-
Southampton. They barely beat Leeds. They're not. They're like this whole.
They
business is not
candidly.
good.
They should
Hold
be
on
lead
a
by 5
second,
goals.
Brian.
Maybe
They
it's not
play
Leeds. We haven't
when they
seen it.
play well. They play really
And they will
good
also play up
football.
to the level
I
for
didn't say they
Chelsea.
didn't play good football,
But-
but, they've
but you
also
see-
had moments.
Yeah,
this is
no,
not
I
a
agree.
bias. They've had moments of them getting away with it a little bit, where
I
they've
think
gotten the goal.
I think we
they've
got to
won
give Arsenal
1-0.
some respect and put a little
We-
respect.
we
on
do.
their
I
name.
just
We-
They're
said I'm
far
giving
more
them fucking
consistent.
respect. You have to be honest about it as well.
Here's what I'd say about this game.
Miami.
Here's what I would say about this
They're
game.
getting away with a lot of it.
Stamford Bridge is a very difficult place to go for any team in the Premier League. I don't care who you are. Stamford Bridge is a tough place to play. If Arsenal show up with their best game, they win this game. Other than City, they're the only team in the league who plays ball-moving football exceptionally well. If they show up ready for it and Chelsea have one of these weeks where they're just not there, they're going to get pumped. Otherwise, I agree. I'm not sure if it was Brian whoever said it. Chelsea get up for the big games. This could be good, and I wouldn't be surprised if it was a draw. But
I
if
could see
Arsenal
Chelsea
show up
making
ready
it
to
as
go,
well.
yeah,
Really
that
close,
maybe who's going to score the goal?
That was the most non-committal David ever.
I
it
don't
could be
know,
Chelsea,
man.
But it could be Arsenal, but it could be a draw.
Dude, Man United went there a couple of weeks ago when we played really well. They're good at the Bridge. They're just really good at home.
I'm going to give the make or break, and I'm going to put it to Chelsea, and I'm going to say for this reason, I think the time they've had this week where they didn't have to worry about Champions League really because they kind of already comfortable, and Arsenal, I believe, have to win their group because there's 2 games more they have to play if they don't win their group. So they're going to be focused on tomorrow's game, a Thursday game, and I think that does not give them a lot of time to turn around to go to Stamford Bridge against a Chelsea side that was embarrassed the last time they played. And
The
I'm
lunchtime kickoff as well. It's early.
Yeah,
so.
early.
yeah. So
Going back too early.
I think there's math stacking to the favor of Chelsea for this one. And I'm kind of, I don't know. I'm still kind of waiting to see what kind of character Arsenal has. Maybe this is the game we'll find out. But for me, I feel I would be pretty comfortable putting money on Chelsea to win this game. And I don't usually bet. So that's kind of where my head's at. I would also feel comfortable putting money on Man United to beat Aston Villa.
That's a no-brainer.
Is it though?
JP, look at me when I'm talking to you. Look at me. You look me in the eye, JP, when I talk to you.
Is it
It's
a
over.
no-brainer?
It's over.
I
It's
don't
a
know. Are they
free
that
fail,
bad? I haven't
Yeah.
followed them enough. Are they that bad, JP?
Yes, we are just dog shit. We've conceded 7 goals in 3 games.
Not a lot of room for, not a lot of time for Emery to come in. And
Yeah.
do enough.
No, Emery has to get his shit going. He doesn't.
Very difficult.
Honestly, he needs to not worry about results this side of the World Cup. He needs to get into the World Cup, do his magic, and then come middle of January, we got to start thumping, moving along. I don't see us getting anything out of United. We never beat United at home. It doesn't matter. Like, you guys could bring your ball boys and we'd still fucking lose.
Jesus
so
Christ. I hope you're right.
If we lose by 1 goal, I'm happy.
But, and I'm going to say it because I have to, everything I said about Arsenal being distracted on a Thursday night because they have to win is also true for Man United. So I got to say, if there is a chance for you, it might just be the quick turnaround from the Thursday night to this game.
I think Alex is right.
And it's the Premier League. Who knows what happens to these games?
And also, JP, just so you know, we have to win our game on Thursday. Like, it's very important. So we'll be starting our best players for the Europa League. So that's another thing going your way.
Will get a hat trick versus us. Like, he could not move and fucking score against us right now.
We'll see.
Southampton are going to get beat by Newcastle, by the way. Southampton are going to get beat
bad. They're going to get beat bad.
And sooner or later, we're going to start talking about the relegation zone, and sooner or later, we're going to start talking about Southampton.
I think there's another draw here. I think
every
it's
time.
1-1 Southampton Newcastle.
No, you're batshit crazy.
It's making it crazy.
Put your money where your mouth is.
I do think if Man United beat Aston Villa and Newcastle draw, then Man United are top of Newcastle in 4th. Just a little math there for everybody. There might be a little bit of a swing in the standings based on these 2 games happening at the same time on Sunday. West Ham are hosting Crystal Palace. I don't know. I don't know.
I like Crystal Palace's attack. They can score goals out of nothing with Edouard, Eze, and Zaha. That's what I think that team has going for them. They can just hurt you.
West Ham. I just don't like West Ham. I don't like Moyes. I don't like the way they're.
Remember when JP said the West Ham were going to finish top 4 or something?
Yes.
Oh, the best.
I said
the
5th.
best.
I think I said maybe it was 4.
Yet everyone seems to like Declan Rice, though.
He's
overrated.
Class.
Overrated.
Hey, JP, honest question. Since you got engaged to your beautiful fiance, is that the reason why you're allowed in the house now and not in the garage?
No, because she got a job working from home, so she moved the desk into the house because she wants to work in the house, and so that's why I can use the desk in the house now.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
That's nice of her.
Oh,
It's the wedding ring.
You didn't give us an update on the weather. You didn't give us an
It rained today. It was shit. It was terrible.
For once.
It was terrible weather for once. It got sunny by 5 o'clock.
Too hot.
Still.
Okay. And then obviously the big game, Tottenham hosting Liverpool. The big game
3rd
certainly
place versus 9th
for us. Big game for us. Son out for Spurs, and I do think you're kind of like decimated by injury right now. Is maybe the term I've heard a little bit. Your front attacking 3, I think. 2 of your best players in your best 3 are out. Correct me if I'm wrong. Harry Kane is still Harry Kane. And I don't know that you're as healthy as you could be in your defense either, Brian Ireland. Is that fair assessment?
So there's some issues there. Romero, start with the defense. Romero's out. He's got a thigh strain. He won't play until post World Cup. I think that's more of a I want to play for my country scenario, unfortunately. But Dyer's filled in there on the right-hand side with Langley playing in the middle. In the last 2 games, it's actually worked quite well. So I'm not too concerned about that scenario. The right wing back is, just always kind of annoying because Emerson does Emerson things, and then sometimes he plays well, and he still ends up being the first choice. The biggest issue is our front line. Of course, Kulishevsky's been out for ages.
What is that injury, Brian? He's been out for a while, man.
It's frustrating because he was at the beginning of the Bournemouth game. He ran laps. He did 35 hot sprints before the game started, and then wasn't on the bench for the following game in the Champions League. Not quite sure what's going on there exactly. Richarlison is supposed to be fit for this weekend.
Interesting.
So Richarlison on the left, potentially Kane up the middle, and either Lucas Moura or Brian Hill on the right, and then you've still got the rest of the team being pretty strong. The Liverpool side right now, who are as we know all struggling, but are also really, really have so much talent in that team, and at any point can beat anybody. So there's not a lot of confidence from my perspective, especially since they're so bad in the first half. Who knows how many goals they might score in that?
Azaz, what's going to happen? Azaz, what's going to happen?
I don't fear going into the big games. I still think, obviously, just based on form and the fact that the home team Tottenham are slight favourites going into it. But
yes,
I don't think we won't. I don't think we won't show up. Like We didn't show up against Forest. We didn't show up against Leeds. I don't think we won't show up. We are dangerous. We can score goals. Darwin's goals per game ratio is ridiculous. So I would like to see him play 90 minutes. He's scoring a goal every 100 minutes of Premier League and Champions League football. So I really want.
How's he looking though? How's he looking in the team?
I really like him. He's mental. He's nuts.
He is.
He's got he's got pieces of different players. He's the fastest ever recorded Premier League player, apparently, on sprints. He's by no means the finished article. Anybody that thinks he is wrong. He's very raw. Lots of raw.
Darwin Núñez.
Lots of raw materials, but he's crazy.
He's evolution, right?
He's got goals and he's got some goals and assists. I just want to also say, as amazing as the cyborg is, and I know JP, we were wrong. Salah and Kane are both on 11 goals for the season. That happened really quietly.
Premier League goals?
No, Premier League and Champions League. Champions League counts, man.
That's a really big
deal.
That doesn't count.
Yeah, Premier League goals, Kane got quite a few more than Salah.
Yeah,
but what does Salah have, 4?
That isn't a big up. That's just the nature of what we're talking about. But,
and Champions League is it's not. We're not talking about the Carabao Cup here.
No, it's a big deal. Salah's dominating the Champions League this season. Here's my question. I have more questions because I've been watching Spurs, and I know they've got injuries, and I kind of know what's going on with them. With Liverpool, who is their best attack, and who is playing on the left side of that? Because when Firmino is quietly, when he does play, having a good season as well, right? What are the major injuries that are impacting the attack right now?
Diaz would be on the left. He was brilliant before he got injured. So Diaz would be on the left. I think Darwin would be in the middle, and Salah would be on the right. We've kind of flirted with two up, and we've done different combinations. So Mo one of the strikers, and then either Firmino or Darwin. I would just play the 3 on Sunday. I'd play Darwin on the left because he's rapid.
He's fast.
He looks at a fullback and just goes at him, but he's powerful as well, right? So I
am getting excited for this game. By the way, now I'm.
I think it's gonna be a good game. I'm nervous about it, but I'm excited at the same time. I don't really have any care one way or the other, win or lose. I mean, it sucks if you lose, of course, but I'm not gonna be it's not gonna be tragic if we lose to Liverpool.
Well, I think it's gonna be a great game. I think it's a great game week. I'm happy to start using the wrap up tone so that Dave Convery doesn't ask a random question.
I'm thinking about one.
It's coming.
5 hours.
Thinking about it.
You can call us regular people if you want to chat, Dave. You don't have to keep extending this show into.
What do you guys think? No.
Forrest, you have a guest. Tell her we say hi.
No, you don't talk to my wife, JP. You don't talk.
I'm saying hi.
Don't.
It's been a pleasure, guys. Great to see everybody. We're hitting it right on an hour here. Thanks for the folks in the comments. Please like and subscribe, support the channel, all the stuff. We reached 300 subscribers recently, which for us is a feat. Considering our lack of consistency, but it's been a pleasure seeing you guys again and Chad. And I hate that this season is going to be chopped in the middle of it with a crappy World Cup in a crappy place, but
2 more
weeks. We could do some fun stuff. We could do some fun stuff, maybe some quarter way through top 5. We usually come up with some cool stuff. Paul does. I don't know why I'm saying we.
Paul you don't come up with anything, dude.
No. But to fill out a couple of weeks, not 7 or 8 weeks. I don't know, guys. I don't know.
I know.
We'll just do a drinking game. We'll just reserve ourselves.
We need to do one.
Show.
We need to do a live show. We need to do a live show. Yeah. We can all do that. That should be.
You know what? Here's the deal. Here's what we're gonna do, guys. I'm gonna tell you right now.
Fly to California.
We're going to do a show.
Live show
that is going to be a Premier League trivia game show.
Oh.
And we're gonna make it live broadcast, and it's gonna be a drinking game show, and it's going to be.
We can make Luke the host because that's going to be his role. He loves that shit.
Well, on that note, thanks everybody for watching. True. We will be giving you information about this live show that's going to happen at some point. Please like and subscribe. Thanks everybody for being here, and we'll see you next time. Cheers.
Bye.
This is the North End.